Graveyards and cemeteries, the ultimate collection, a place full of the soul, secrets and treasures. Today's episode that we're going to be breaking down and seeing if we're able to survive is called Graveyard Rats. Two amigos, two comrades, brethrens are on a job digging into a grave. Something is a little off by the remarks, talking about how they can tell she's a pretty run. Times are truly hard for these two scavengers right here. In the middle of collecting the contents of this grave, they're interrupted by a seemingly well-to-do man who lectures them about the reasons why civilization built graves or something. He is doing this while holding them at gunpoint, which results them into scattering into the wind at the first chance they get. We then discover that this man is not the owner of the cemetery, which we first may have assumed. But in fact he is a grave robber as well, where he finishes clearing out this particular grave. Then we see he's having some money issues coming up short to his boss. He tries to explain that he's been dealing with some peculiar rats, and that every time he digs into a grave it seems to be empty. The man he is pleading to doesn't seem to believe this is possible, but this man is describing something much more than a natural rat. Everything he is talking about sounds like something more of the supernatural sorts. Boss man doesn't really believe the ghost stories and tells him to get him his money, otherwise he won't be in the cemetery business no more. He will be the business. He then arrives at a man named Dooley's workplace. This man is either a mortician of sorts. He wants to see if there's any bodies so he can search for fillings that he can retrieve. And the mortician says the only way that he can examine one of the bodies is if he receives a so-called devil's elixir, which he hands over. The man handles all of the bodies searching, unable to find what he is looking for. When he gets to the end of the room, he spots a curtain with a separate body laying there on the other side. Without hesitation, this man goes for it, checks the mouth and tries to remove the teeth, interrupted by the man's family who pay the body a visit. He hides behind some furniture, and we're then skipped to a scene where he is drunk entering a brothel, it seems. This is where this man lives, so he lays down on his bed and thinks about the job that he's got up ahead. Laying there stressing due to the fact that he has to wait for the body to be buried before he's able to retrieve the teeth. Scared that the so-called rats will get to them first. Laying on his bed he sees a small hole in the ceiling with a small string hanging through. He pulls on the string and bam, falls for a rat. Laying there in disbelief, the rest of the ceiling begins collapsing in on itself, and the man is drowned in more of these creatures. The family bury the body without wasting a second. We are shown the man burying into the same spot, trying to retrieve the teeth that he'd noticed the day before. Digging into the grave, he is met with the sound of squeaking. Panicking and becoming distraught, this man tries to break open the coffin, only to discover the body is being dragged through a hole from below. He frantically tries to grab the body but is too slow. He is then flooded with visions of his future funeral arrangements, come the morning if he still has no merchandise, and he decides to crawl into the hole after this body. This guy is way braver than I am. I understand he owes this guy money and may be scared of the repercussions, but you already described these rats as supernatural, and who knows how many of them are going to be down there. This is also in like the Victorian times, so it's not like they'd be able to track him down if he wanted to just run away to a different town, create a whole new life and identity. He kind of would just be fine. Crawling through the elaborate tunnel systems these rats have created, the flooring suddenly collapses and falls through. At this moment he shouts a threat and some positive affirmations to himself. He is then swarmed by hundreds of rats closing in on him. He is trying his best to escape, but they're not interested in him at all. They're running over his body until he shoots at the floor in a panic. Doing so, he shoots off the top of his foot. Should have just tried to keep calm, my G. A rat then turns around and stops on a rock, where he shoots it and seems to have the best time of his life. But I'm not gonna lie, this man is way too happy for killing one rat, especially after just shooting himself in the foot. He hears some loud sounds coming from the distance, and this is most likely why the rats were running in the first place. The next thing you know, this man is face to face with a demonic cow-sized rat all up in his grill. He slowly reaches for the firearm. Hopefully if I can just get this one shot off, I can kill this thing. Unfortunately, this man has no such luck. After firing, the rat starts scratching and attacking him. This man tries his best to escape. After crawling down more passageways, he ends up falling into what seems to be a mass grave. He sees jewelry and all sorts of valuable goods, and his heart rate starts rising. He's getting real excited, completely forgetting the situation that he's actually in, and the fact that he's in a mass grave surrounded by other unfortunate souls that found themselves there too. He's discovering he's in a big cathedral / temple of some sorts, surrounded by statues with artifacts hanging from their necks. After Scrooge McDuck here grabs the necklace from one of the statues, it awakens in a fit of rage, demanding what is taken is theirs. It proceeds to bite this man, and even with half a body, relentlessly pursues this man to get his things back. Climbing up a passageway trying to escape, this man begins getting stuck. He can feel the sides of the tunnel pressing into the sides of his body, and he has no choice but to pray. Please God, help me get through this dark moment in time. He manages to get through, where the zombified corpse is still hot on his tail, with the giant rat not long behind. In a face-off with the rat, he picks up a sword, his heart rate's rising dramatically. He feels the tickling sensation of sweat dripping from his eyebrow as he prepares for mortal combat. The rat rushes him, and during the chaos, the ceiling of the tunnel breaks apart, ultimately crushing the rat and the zombie in the process. Thank God, it's a miracle. I've survived. He climbs back up the tunnel to freedom. Finally, I've made it. I can see the light. Well, he wishes that's how this story was going to play out. This was no light from God. This was the light that would seal this man's fate for good. He had climbed himself not into freedom, but into fact his final resting place unknowingly. Laying there in the same sort of grave he initially went out to desecrate, he is swarmed by hundreds of rats who at least get to enjoy a fresh meal. This episode then wraps up with the exact two robbers it began with digging into the grave, surprised to be seeing the same man that had frightened them off the day before. So that's gonna be it for this episode. Graveyard Rats, episode 2 of the Cabinet of Curiosities. We could have definitely beaten this by 1, getting another job to begin with. 2, not crawling into holes after supernatural rats. And 3, running away a few miles down the road to a completely new town. Simple. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe as the channel is really new. So all the love and support is needed and motivates me to make more videos like these. Anyways, thank you for staying and watching for this long. I'm your guy, the High Sin speaking, and stay dangerous.